I've been using Preply for over a year and a half to help improve my French, and it has been such a great way to keep practicing regularly and to make real progress. It's been a great experience for a lot of reasons, but I think the most important reason is because I chose a really great teacher. I honestly think it has so much to do with why I love Preply and why I'm always recommending it to anyone who wants to get better at speaking another language. Preply has so many great teachers, which is a good thing, but it does also make it challenging to know where to even start. So, if you're wondering how to go about making the right choice, what I think is important is that you choose one that's a good match for your specific needs, but also for your learning style. So, in this video, I'll go over my tips for how to choose a teacher on Preply beyond just using the filters when searching on their website. But really, it's my advice on how to think about what your actual goals are when it comes to learning a language, and how to choose a teacher based on the ways that you need to be motivated and stay motivated. But before I get into that, I'm Karina, and I've posted other videos about my experience learning a new language, but my channel is really about embracing new hobbies and trying new things as an adult, and knowing that it's never too late to get started. So if that sounds like you, then have a look at my other videos and don't forget to subscribe. But if you're just here for advice on how to choose a teacher on Preply, then keep watching because you're in the right place. So why is it so important to choose the right teacher? For me personally, the fact that I'm really happy with my Preply teacher means that I look forward to meeting with her. And I enjoy our conversations, and it's a positive experience, so I'm motivated to continue regularly. And this is important because regular practice is what actually leads to real progress. And this is aside from the material you actually learn in each session. It has more to do with the overall learning environment, which encourages retention and repetition and motivation. And it also has to do with building good habits and building confidence and being committed. Because the more you like the experience of taking online language lessons and the more rewarding it feels, then the more likely you are to continue doing it. And that's how you get real results and become a better speaker. So just to do an overview of the filters that are built into the platform that you can use to narrow down your options while choosing a teacher. So first, you choose the language you want to learn, and you can also filter for teachers that speak your native language or any other particular language that you also speak. And you can also filter for teachers with a specific native language. So to use myself as an example, which is pretty straightforward, I'm American and my native language is English, and I also know Spanish, but I wanted to use Preply to practice my French. So I searched for a teacher that speaks French natively and who also speaks English and Spanish. So that way she may be familiar with other references that I tried to make or anything that's been relevant to my language learning experience or to my general understanding. But to give another example, let's say you are Chinese and your native language is Chinese and you also speak Italian fluently and you want to use Preply to study German. For whatever reason, maybe you could use the filters to find a German teacher that also speaks Italian. Or maybe this student wants to find a German teacher whose native language is also Chinese, so that there's a common understanding of what it takes for a Chinese speaker to become a German speaker. Because a teacher that fits this specific criteria will be able to teach from experience. So all of this to say, no matter your situation, you will be able to adjust Preply's filters to find teachers that speak and teach various combinations of languages. And in addition to that, you can also use the filters to specify if you want a teacher from a specific country, in case there's a particular dialect or accent that you prefer to learn or practice. And you can also select teachers with certain specializations. For example, if you want conversational practice, or if you are a total beginner, or if you're preparing to take a language exam and you need to cover specific study material. And then, of course, you can filter for teachers within a specific price range to fit your budget and based on general availability so you can find someone that will fit into your schedule. But beyond all these filters I just mentioned, I think it's important to ask yourself a few questions about your specific goals for learning a language and also how to find out what your personal learning style is. Some of this may come from your own intuition or from using your own judgment, but I think it can be helpful to determine things like, do you prefer really structured learning environments? Or do you like interactions that are much more fluid? Or do you prefer to learn from someone who is more strict and serious and rigid and authoritative in a way? Or would you prefer someone that you could talk to casually like a friend? For example, my situation. I wanted a teacher I could practice conversations with to be able to express myself comfortably in social situations and to be able to make friends and to understand people I was being introduced to. So I looked for a teacher that I could speak to like a friend and who had similar interests. If you're learning for fun, I think it's helpful to find a teacher that's interested in similar things as you so that you have interesting things to talk about, including the subjects that you will naturally want to be able to express yourself in. For example, things like cooking or gardening or traveling or TV shows or current events or sports. If your goal is to learn a language for work, then you could find a teacher that's interested in your industry, or even someone that has experience in your industry. So that way you can learn to communicate about the technical aspects of your job or your field, or so you can get more experience expressing yourself using relevant vocabulary. Another totally different example is maybe you're a parent raising kids in a new country and you want to learn a language to be able to navigate that aspect of your life more easily. You could potentially find a teacher that's also a parent and who can understand what you're going through and who is familiar with the topics that you may need to communicate. I think overall, regardless of your situation, this aspect and thought process of how to choose your teacher on Preply doesn't take long, it just requires some self-reflection. So once you've done the self-reflection about your goals and personal preferences for the way you like to learn, how do you find a teacher that matches that criteria? There are 3 ways to do this. The first is by reading the profile descriptions that teachers write about themselves, where they can describe their interests so you can get to know them better. And the second way is by watching the introduction videos that teachers publish to their profiles. This can give you a sense of their personality and their voice, and maybe also their accent or the speed at which they talk. Maybe any of those things will inspire you to want to learn from them. And then the last way to find out if a teacher is a great match for you is by scheduling a trial lesson. And my advice for approaching your trial lesson, especially if you want to get the most out of your Preply experience, is to be prepared. Because I think it's common and also natural to let the teacher guide the trial lesson. But I think it's really helpful if instead you come prepared and you take the lead and you approach it like you're conducting an interview of the person who's going to help you learn a language. And to use your trial lesson as your opportunity to determine if this is a great match for the criteria that you took the time to reflect on and discover about yourself. And like I mentioned, the great thing is that Preply has so many teachers to choose from. So even if you have a lot of criteria to match, then you will be able to find someone that's a great fit for you and your preferences. And that being said, I noticed that Preply is in the process of introducing more types of teachers on the platform, beyond just language. You can now filter for teachers that specialize in arts and sciences and history and literature, and music and other hobbies like fitness and yoga. So using these new filters could also help you find a teacher that has similar interests to you or someone who has experience in the same professional industry as you. But while that feature is being built out, you can already go through the process of finding a great teacher by using any of the ideas I've discussed in this video as soon as you wish. And now the last 2 things I want to say about choosing a teacher on Preply. The first is that once you've chosen a teacher and you've started taking language classes with them, if you ever want to change teachers, you can transfer your subscription or your class credits to another teacher. Maybe if the availability or scheduling wasn't working out, or you realize that you'd be better suited with different kinds of structure, or you just decided that a certain teacher was not a great match for you in the end for whatever reason, then you have that flexibility to change. And that you can also use your existing credits you have for your subscription with one teacher and put them toward a trial lesson for another teacher. And the second point is that you can also consider having multiple subscriptions with different teachers at the same time, which is helpful to get more experience with different accents and different personalities. If you do this, then you can apply what you're learning much more often and can get much more practice, which will make you a better speaker. And it will make you better equipped to communicate with more types of people out in the real world. So, as I've said before, Preply has been a great way for me to practice my French, but the point I want to emphasize is that signing up is the easy part. What actually takes your skill to the next level is showing up and following through. It's the part that actually requires effort and motivation, and it's what sets you apart from others who want to learn a language but don't actually put in the work. To put it this way, I didn't get better at French just because I signed up for Preply. I got better at French because I chose a teacher and because I subscribed to a month of weekly classes and because I showed up to those weekly classes. And then a month turned into 3 months, and then 6 months, then a year, and now it's been more than a year and a half that I've been regularly taking classes on Preply. I think it's common to wish for quick solutions to difficult things, but it's not realistic to assume that anyone can learn a language overnight or expect results without putting in the effort. So my advice is to be wary of any claims from people who say that they have a shortcut to make you fluent overnight. But instead, to recognize that language learning takes commitment and regular practice and repetition and testing a variety of methods and really expanding the boundaries of your comfort zone, because that's the fun part. I hope that this was helpful. I love using Preply and I love learning languages, and I love sharing my advice and experiences about learning new things in general as an adult. So if you're interested in any of the other things I've learned about recently, then feel free to check out my other videos and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And I'll see you next time.